Hello and welcome to the Atlantic Council. I am Abbas Kadem, Resident Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council and the Director of the Iraq Initiative. And this is an Iraq Initiative event. It is on record, so feel free to tweet, quote our excellent guest, and enjoy the event. We look forward to a timely, great conversation with our guest. And we will carry this live, and you are welcome if you are not here and you are watching us, you are also welcome to tweet using the hashtag #ACIraq. And this is at the Middle East Center here, AC Middle East. Here is the format. Sarkawt will give his brief remarks after I finish here, and then I will ask him some questions. Then we open it to the audience for questions. So that's how we are going to proceed today. Our esteemed guest, Sarkawt Shamsulddin, is a member of the Iraqi Council of Representatives. He is a member of the Future Parliamentary Group, Deputy Chairman of the Civil Society Committee, a very important committee in the Iraqi Parliament, and he is a member of the Iraq-United States Friendship Committee. He was a co-founder of the New Generation Movement, and he previously worked in Washington as the bureau chief for NRT News TV. He also worked for the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad as a political and cultural advisor. Sarkawt holds a master's degree in public policy from Virginia Tech University. So without further ado, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce my good friend, the Honorable Sarkawt Shamsulddin. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Abbas. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am honored to be here with you today to discuss the current state of affairs in Iraq. Thank you to Dr. Abbas and Stefani for putting this event together. We are actually proud of Dr. Abbas for all of amazing work he's doing here in Washington, also in Baghdad. Recently, he was in Baghdad and helping the Ministry of Foreign Affairs interviewing the new ambassadors, appointed ambassadors to Iraq. And thanks for the Atlantic Council in general for the event and also for inviting me. I'm happy to share some of my observations about the recent improvements and progress in Iraq. While we are here as Iraqi and Kurdish politicians, terrorism and violence will not be the main focus of discussion today, which is remarkable. This doesn't mean that there is no threat from terrorism in Iraq, including Kurdistan region. Terrorism is a global threat, and no one is safe from it, as we recently saw in El Paso, in Washington, in United States even. In some ways that we have been able to accomplish in this regard is a marker for what is possible when we work together in true partnership with U.S. We sincerely appreciate U.S. military incredible support since 2014 and before for Iraqi security forces and Peshmerga. The fact remains that the U.S.-led coalition's missions in Iraq and Syria against terrorism has yet to be fully completed, but significant progress has been made. I believe the military partnership between Iraq and the U.S. is the only element of the relationship that is truly working between our two nations. We as Iraqis, again, both at the federal level and in Kurdistan region, do not feel that the relationship between the U.S. and Iraq is functioning diplomatically and economically as a kind of the true partnership envisioned by the Strategic Framework Agreement. We are sometimes surprised by Washington's decision about our country or about issues in which we are involved. Economically, Iraq desperately needs to increase foreign investment, and the U.S. should be the first to seize that opportunity. Iraq needs over $90 billion to rebuild its liberated areas. This cannot be done only by us alone. We need your support in the form of investment or loans that go beyond pledges that are only sometimes realized. When it comes to Iran and US tensions, which we will be discussing most of our times here, we are caught in the middle at a critical time when our country requires international cooperation, not regional conflict. We expect and demand that both countries refrain using Iraq as a battlefield. Both countries are very important to us. The US spent more than $3 trillion and sacrificed the lives of more than 4,000 soldiers to get rid of Saddam's brutal dictatorship and establish a constitutional and democratic Iraq, which we honor. While the other shares, which is Iran, shares our longest border and has strong cultural, religious, economic, and political ties with us. We cannot and should not ignore that. They are both important to Iraq. Our hope is that both countries tolerate our neutrality. Iraq cannot take sides. We need both sides to be on our side. Our people have suffered too much. The other topic I would like to discuss is Erbil-Baghdad relations, which some of the people watching us online also are expecting to address that issue, because this is also, it's true, an internal matter, but also it will affect Iraq's ability to function as a real state. The new KRG leadership is promising to reset its relations with Baghdad. I believe this is the right path. I believe that Baghdad is an opportunity for Kurdistan, not as a threat. The KRG leadership should also see it that way. Kurdistan's future will be decided in Baghdad, not in Tehran, not in Ankara, not even in Washington. The new government in Baghdad has shown goodwill by allocating and delivering salaries to KRG's public employees, despite the failure of KRG to abide by the 2019 budget law, which requires KRG to sell 250,000 barrels of crude oil per day through Iraq's national oil exporter SOMO. Prime Minister Abdul Mahdi has shown his willingness to resolve this dispute with KRG, and he has given Erbil ample time to arrange those transfers. Now that the referendum's favor has broken, the KRG has the opportunity to reach an agreement with Baghdad based on constitution. The Baghdad-Erbil relationship should change from one of confrontation to one based on cooperation and true partnership. It is time to end the counterproductive tensions, the fruitless lobbying against each other in Washington and elsewhere. The idea that Baghdad falls, Kurdistan will rise, has proven to be dead wrong. Our future is intertwined. We are stronger together. Kurds also had a hand in drafting and played a big role in drafting and negotiating the new constitution, and it is among the most progressive and democratic ones in the Middle East. We should keep it, not destroy it. Finally, it's far from past time to address the other fundamental issues that are responsible for holding back progress in Iraq, such as corruption, unemployment, and lack of opportunities for young people. These are the issues that are becoming priorities for the current parliament, current government, and hopefully the civil society organizations. Last month, Iraq's Integrity Commission published its first 6-month report. According to that report, the commission was able to return over $1 billion to the public coffers after they investigated high-profile individuals, including 5 ministers and 100 general managers. Unfortunately, the KRG, the Kurdistan Regional Government, has not been so successful in countering corruption, despite many promises. It is institutions that are supposed to hold government officials accountable are very weak compared to Baghdad, and are constantly undermined by executive authority, but Baghdad in this regard has shown some progress. As for civil society, I can tell you that we have great individuals who are passionate about democracy, human rights, freedom of speech, but we still do not have the level of civil engagement that can force the government to alter its attitude or work consistently to pressure the government. In this regard, we need Washington and European capitals to continue their support and do even more. Importantly, we need you to change the way you do business with civil society by giving opportunities to the younger generations and high-skilled individuals, not merely relying on the established organizations with whom you have dealt with in the past. As a young MP and a freshman the lawmaker, I'm still optimistic about the future of Iraq, but at the same time, I'm worried about it because it is so fragile. In my capacity as an MP, as a member of civil society and Parliament Development Committee, I engage with civil society organizations across the country to build connections between civil society in South and Baghdad with their partners in Kurdistan, not only partnership between government, but also the society level. There are many issues that civil society can address at the national level and bring all of the country's best minds and most passionate organizers will have greater impact than if they are isolated regionally. They can fight for human rights, women's rights, and the rights of children together. They can fight against racism and bigotry together. They can launch anti-corruption campaigns together, and I truly believe that they will have an impact. I'm happy to discuss these issues and many other issues that you will raise with us, with Dr. Abbas today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarkawt, for this great overview.
Thank you.
It's really great to see voices like you who are coming to the Iraqi parliament and Iraqi legislative process with fresh ideas, trying to challenge the status quo of politicians who have from all ethno-sectarian backgrounds in Iraq, who pursued agendas that stem from their own views for where Iraq should be and how it should be governed. And I think people like you have changed or at least forced some change in the narrative and in the debate in Baghdad and quite frankly even in Erbil, and we will talk about that. I will probably start from unpacking what you just said in your introductory remarks. I think they are very important points that you have put forward, and it's a great idea to start by unpacking some of those. And let me start with the thing that everybody is having on their mind these days. Iraq, of course, just finished a major security project by scoring an impressive victory against what perhaps could have been considered the most or the greatest existential threat to its polity, to its fledgling democracy. That's the threat of ISIS. 1/3 of Iraqi territory or more was lost to this terrorist group. A lot of human toll and sacrifice, and you just mentioned to us that it's about $90 billion to reconstruct the damage. But in order to meet those challenges that are ahead, I always say that the defeat of ISIS probably is the easier part of the process. How to put society back together, how to engage in reconciliation, in rehabilitating the society, in bringing communal relations back, and also, of course, the bill of reconstruction, all of these. And this needs stability, domestic stability and regional stability. Yet we see an escalating threat. Iraq is not necessarily a part of it, but it is in the middle. It's in the crossfire of any possible conflict between Iran and the United States and also some of the regional players. So how does Iraq view this conflict? What are the fears? And can Iraq be an actor or a player in the possible conflict resolution? How is it seen from Baghdad? We know how it is seen from outside, but if you put us in the kind of on the other side of the view and tell us how Baghdad is viewing this in this escalating conflict.
Well, you mentioned an important point is that we defeated ISIS, but in order to rebuild the country, we need stability internally and also regionally. That will affect all of the projects that we are trying to put together to bring back Iraq or to take back Iraq to normalcy. Not just saying like too much progress. I'm not really claiming that Iraq is a Switzerland and we have no problems. I'm trying to say that Iraq is trying to become more normal, like a normal state, acting normal, which we are. We appreciate the international support and the regional support, Iran, Turkey, and other countries who supported Iraq in different times. However, and also the good thing, which we really hope that is really true, is that both Iran and the United States are saying that they don't want war, which is incredible, and we don't. The last thing we want in that part of the world is another war. But the conflict, the reactions that targeting each other's opponents or proxies, that really hinder the progress in Iraq, and that will distract us from strategic projects. I can tell you an example, many examples in Parliament, as we experience, not just only executive power, which they also been distracted by this conflict many times. Each time when we see a tweet which mentioned us and Iran or something about some elements in Iraq related to Iran, the Parliament will stuck. And we really need to move forward to pass many bills or amend many laws that the executive authority is asking from us to do that for them. But that is the last time when President Trump made the surprise visit to Baghdad, or to Iraq, not actually Baghdad, that I think slowed down the progress or the strategic plan we had in Parliament for a couple months. We couldn't do anything because we were not sure if the Parliament can have a session or what is the major topic is going to be. Because I think if you ask the Iraqi government and the military commanders, they still need the international support. The U.S. Army and the international coalition in Iraq for training, to defeat ISIS, because this is we won the war against ISIS, but the battle is going to continue in other forms. We are far from it to say like we are fully able to protect our country, especially the west part of the country. But we were not sure if this is going to lead to the evacuation or forceful departure of the U.S. forces in Iraq, which will create the tensions. And that's the last thing we want with the United States, and will really create an opportunity for radical groups to exploit that situation and then come back to sectarian and ethnic divisions in Iraq.
Speaking of this relation between Iraq and the United States, you just mentioned something very important I picked on, and I'm sure the audience here did. You mentioned that the relationship between Iraq and the United States on the economic and political levels is not where it is supposed to be. I remember in a tweet recently you said that the military relation is working very well,
right,
but not so with the economic and the political relation. And the strategic framework agreement, which is really now supposed to be the framework agreement that governs the relation between these two countries, stipulates that there is more actually on what you say is not working as it should be, the political and the economic, technology, education, all of that. Where did we lose the connection here? What went wrong that all tracks did not go at the same speed or to the same distance, you think?
I think the new administration has been, and also the previous administration also been focusing on Iraq in general as some place that they have soldiers and there are terrorism and they have to fight and they have to find an opportunity to bring back their soldiers and end it. And I don't think they are often going back to the strategic framework agreement that there are more to do with Iraq and there are more opportunities for them. Iraq is one of the richest country for, like, in terms of natural resources in the region, and it is located in a strategic place. And U.S. spent so much lives and also financially to rebuild Iraq, and we just reached a level that we are, seeing some progress and improvement. And it is time to turn from military. Of course, the military should continue, but not at a larger scale, to economic side and also political side. I mean, politically or diplomatically, when was the last time President Trump called the Iraqi prime minister or the Iraqi president, except the one that when he was surprisingly in Iraq, in Assad air base in Anbar. So that is making us like feeling that we are not seen as a true partner. We are seen as a burden. We don't want to be like that. We think that there are more opportunities. We have 60% youth population in Iraq and educated. That is a great opportunity for other U.S. business, for tech companies, for McDonald's, Starbucks, whatever. Like, we are a big population and growing. It's going to be 40 million people, and it's growing every day. So there are more to do in Iraq than fighting ISIS, and there are in Iraq, not just only in south or mid, even in Kurdistan, and also the reconstruction is also another thing that we need the U.S. to increase its attention. And we also feel that we can play a positive role in easing the tensions in the region now as we are moving forward, not becoming a factor of instability in the region. We normalized our relations with Saudi Arabia and Gulf countries and Jordan. Turkey and Iran has been also some progress. So these are the things that we would like to see. Washington is paying more attention diplomatically and also economically, U.S. business to Iraq, and see Iraq as an opportunity rather than as a threat or some place that is a war-prone country, because this is the reason we reach out to Washington more than anybody else or any other country is because you helped us get rid of Saddam and having a democratic elections, and we had five prime ministers peacefully handing over power, and we have a progressive constitution, by far is the best in the Middle East. So there are a future for both nations if we strengthen the partnership.
Thank you. Let's move a little bit towards domestic politics, and I think these are all dovetailing. And I will start with the current government, both sides, the legislature and the executive. But before that, looking at the setup of the stage in Iraq, the last election witnessed a departure from the old tripartite political system where ethno-sectarian groups have worked within their own groups to come to Baghdad or go to Baghdad and work as ethno-sectarian groups.
Right.
We have now two coalitions. Each one of them has a mix of all of the ethno-sectarian backgrounds, and it seems that it altered the politics in Baghdad a little bit when it comes to government formation, the workings of the parliament. Right. That you will tell us. You are inside the parliament better than I can ever know. So two questions on that. Are we closer to seeing an arrangement where we would have a government and an opposition, especially that at least one bloc in Iraq, Al-Hikma, announced that it is becoming a coalition that is in the opposition and then inviting others to join.
Right.
Is that likely to be a durable situation? And also, how is it working now that you have two major blocs that are not pushing for specific geographic or even ethno-sectarian groups? How is the parliament different? I know this is your first
Right.
Term in parliament, but you've been watching parliament
Right.
very well, and you you know it better.
Right.
So if you can just describe that for us.
Well, that, as you mentioned, just for others who may not follow details or past terms in Baghdad, the past 3 terms of parliament in Iraq has been shaped by big blocks of ethnic groups and sectarian groups. We had the Kurdistan Alliance group, which was all of the Kurdish political parties, especially the 2 big parties, were part of it, united. And then we had the Iraqi coalition, which was the Shia groups were part of it, and then Al-Iraqiyya, which was the Sunnis. But that's gone in this term. I mean, it disappeared. They completely disappeared. There is no unified Kurdish alliance, which I really fully support that. We don't need to be united as ethnic groups. We need to be united based on principles and values. I have more in common with Sairun, for example, than with KDP, which is a rival in Kurdistan. We consider ourselves an opposition to Kurdistan regional government, which is headed by KDP. And also the Shia also kind of divided. We have Sairun. There are Islamist, non-Islamist, Shia, Sunni, everybody part of it, and also other blocks. Then we made the 2 big blocks, Islah and Bina. So far, Islah and Bina 2 blocks are, they are trying to function as 2 united blocks. They are functioning as 2 politically working better than in parliament. So outside of the parliament, the head of the political parties, they see these blocks as their platform. I mean, that's a positive thing. However, inside parliament, everybody goes back to it as small groups. Each person, they have their own agenda, and it's not as united as you see from far. Because this is just new. I mean, we are not used to it, and it is more diverse than before. They are not divided based on ethnic and sectarian lines. Which is remarkable, and I hope that continue. But it is far from it to be like we have the Republican and Democrat here, so like 2 separate groups. With regard to the opposition, I think one of the issues we had with Iraq's democratic process is the lack of opposition groups. And the idea of opposition publicly also to many people is really new in Iraq. When they think of opposition, and just a couple of days ago I saw an Iraqi-based, a US-based Iraqi journalist in Washington, and he asked me how Al-Hikmah become an opposition if they are in parliament. I said, yeah, this is where they can be an opposition.
Yes.
I think an opposition, it means like you'll be out of the country like before Iraqi oppositions. And their opposition to state is different than opposition to the cabinet. They are opposition to the cabinet, not to the state. They are not against the state. But it is still, for people it's new, and also for Al-Hikmah themselves, it's a new experience. And I hope they will succeed, but it will face some challenges because the government is not, the prime minister and the government in general is not fully supported by a certain group, like one group that is we had before, Dawlat State of Law, Dawlat Qanun, or the Da'wah Party. And so you don't know who is your basically opponent, who are you fighting. If you ask Al-Hikmah, they will tell you they're not against Abdul Mahdi, maybe not completely against him, but they have some issues with some certain policy in the government. So it's going to be challenging to form a truly an opposition group that can function and can hold government accountable. But we have an opposition parliament, and in general, nobody is saying that nobody is taking responsibility for the government. Nobody is taking the burden of the government failures when it comes to some certain issues. Because this government, we have more non-sectarian, non-politicians in the government, in the cabinet. We have more technocrats, people coming abroad and coming from outside of the political parties, less political parties, head of the political parties or political figures in the cabinet. So it is not seen, it's difficult to target, for example, Minister Khatib, electricity, so which political party he belongs to. It is not very clear. Or the other ministries also. So, but the entire parliament can hold government accountable, which we did. A couple times we held hearings, and there is no government officials, including the Prime Minister, who is saying no when he is asked to come to Parliament for hearing or even to hold him accountable.
That takes me to some other important part of my question is it's been a year since the Parliament has been seated. It was September, I think, you were started.
Right.
And so it's almost a year. And then the government was in October, late October, so that's going to be a year soon. What are the accomplishments that we have had in this government from both sides, the legislature and the executive? And we start with your institution, since you are going to speak about the Parliament. What has been the accomplishments of this Parliament, and starting probably from your own committee, because it is a very important committee. It is always said in democratization literature that one of the key elements of the four-stage consolidation of democracy is to have a vibrant civil society. In fact, it is one of the hardest to accomplish, because you need to really create a balance between the government and civil society that is pressing and pushing on the government to function and act, as you said. And you are very close to the organizations and to the activists and to the people who are representing the civil society. How do you see your role, and what are the issues that you feel like you need to work on? And then also Parliament at large, what have they done, and what is still to be done that you think should be done before? You just finished the session a couple of days ago, so we still have something coming very soon.
Right.
So how you view that?
I think in Iraq you should not expect too much, because you're going to be surprised by things. So, and sometimes it's like a joke. We make this joke among ourselves. So we didn't do so much, but we didn't really made a lot of troubles too. So, so in terms of normalizing it, so I mentioned that going back to normalcy, that's going to be both achievements for Parliament and also for government, the biggest achievement, security-wise and politically. And this Parliament is more talking about, improving public services, job opportunities, and it's not the tensions in the Parliament is more other than the issues that coming from Washington and Iran distracting us. But the most of the topics are about how to improve the lives of the people, and how to create more jobs, how to improve electricity, provide more electricity, and IDPs, how they can, we can help them return to their cities. So this is the major issues. When we ask the MPs that they have, they've been there previous terms, that they say that it was that the previous terms of Parliament was shaped by terrorism, sectarianism, and also the referendum also was part of a 2 years, long process. The debate in the Parliament. So that was fruitless, talks and discussions. Now we are talking about normal things that is really matter to our people. We have the tensions between Baghdad and Erbil is based on the budget, how much money you're going to get and how much oil you're going to get me. So it's not more about that, are you going to separate, we are not going to allow you, it's going to military confrontation. But in terms of legislation, in our committee, we passed a couple laws because it's part of our syndicate, forming more a few more new syndicates for different groups, chemists, physicists, and the tech groups also, they want to have their own unions. So this is the major role of our committee, and also trying to this year, the new budget, to have a space or a fund from Parliament to civil society organizations, not from the government, something from Parliament will be allocated to them. In Parliament, we also were able to pass which is called the Iraqi financial management law, something like that, which is called the Constitution of Financial Policy in Iraq. It has some flaws, some issues in terms of dealing with regions and also local governments, but it has been one of the laws that need to be passed a few years ago, and it has been delayed, but finally we were able to pass that. And also we worked on some other laws for the matters, the families of the matters of security forces, improving their lives, and also some amendment to I think the Iraqi foreign affairs with regional and Iraq joining other conventions, stuff like that. But it's not a big achievement because half of the last year been shaped by the government formation.
Speaking of that,
yeah,
and I have a question on it.
Yeah.
Iraq, you are a young politician,
right?
A young parliamentarian. I think when you started your term, you were the youngest serving person in the parliament. Iraq is uniquely situated in the young populations. 50% of Iraqis or so are under the age of 19, 40% under the age of 14. That is a population that can be a huge burden on a state, but also if the right policies are done by the state, it can be a great opportunity because change, reform, all of that, you can start and you can influence this population easily because they are in the formation or formative period. Yet, the one minister that has not been seated yet is the Minister of Education.
Right.
That's the one who is really having 50% of Iraqis under their auspices, and the other 50% are parents, so they have to do some business with him or her. And also, it is the last shot for Iraq for now to get a female on the cabinet because it's an all-male cabinet. So what's up with that, as Seinfeld says? Why are you really so reluctant in taking?
Well, that's the Ministry of Education and candidates we proposed. A couple of them were refused. Not because they are females, actually. It's because we still have certain ministries are dedicated to certain groups. In terms of representation, I mean, but that's the first time that we are able to refuse couple, candidates, even for Ministry of Interior. We're able to do that. That's maybe some people see it as a hinder to the government executive branch, but that's also, it shows the powerful parliament, which we have this constitutional power that we can stop whoever we want if we think that person is not suitable to that position. I think it was related to some of the groups that they are supposed to nominate the person, and they keep nominating people that they have some issues with being Ba'athist, former Ba'athist, or families, people that they have some families been high profile in ISIS. So I think we don't need to have vote for somebody for the sake of just voting. We need to have somebody who is clearly really ready for that position. I have voted only to the Prime Minister, nobody else. We just wanted to go to form. I am not responsible for the other ministries, which if I will hold them accountable, but I didn't vote for them based on my observations. But the Ministry of Education, I want to have, because it's a female, I want to support it if we find it's a suitable candidate for that position.
So you are telling us that basically this ministry has been held hostage by the party or bloc that's supposed to nominate somebody to them, and that's one issue. So yes, but it has to be resolved in one way or another. It's a very important ministry, I think, even though I must say that the current acting minister, Dr. Qasai Sahel, is very capable, but he has another big fish to fry, which is the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, where a lot that has to be done. Let me turn to Kurdistan. Kurdistan also had a government formed recently after an election. It took some time to do. Now, you are in a unique position. You are in Baghdad, so you represent the Iraqi federal government and all Iraq, but also you are from the Kurdistan region of Iraq, and that's who your constituents are, that's where your voting bloc is, and that's where your home is, and it's a place that we all care about as well. I spent a great time in Kurdistan. My University of Mosul put me with so many vacations in Erbil, Sulaimaniya, others. So what is this new government right now? How is the new leadership? Is promising or not? What is new in the new management of the Kurdistan regional government? And what are the prospects for different relations between Baghdad and Erbil? Or do you think it will be the same? And most importantly, what do you think the governance of the Kurdistan region going to be under the Prime Minister Barzani and President Barzani?
Which is another Barzani,
yes.
Right. Well, the Kurdistan region's government was delayed for about 9 months, and it was huge. And that's the new record for KRG. But one thing was positive in the long run is that this government is truly under the 50-50 division of Kurdistan. Well, before that, as Kurdistan used to be very united before 1991. Even under Saddam was united, but then when the two political parties came, KDP and PUK, they divided Kurdistan region. So we had Sulaimaniya and Erbil, two governments. So they have been shaped the KRG's policy in the last 2 decades, 3 decades. But this time, the new government, the new Barzani, the new prime minister, formed the government the way because they were the majority, that they are the one that they formed the government, and they asked others who would like to join. And it was not a 50-50 division between the political parties, PUK and KDP. PUK became a smaller component of the government. Politically, it will have some negative impact in the short run, but in the long run, I think it will allow other political parties to unite and also to form the government the way KDP did. Of Kurdistan Democratic Party did. That's the only thing really new. Other than that, we have the same family, the same political party, and somehow the same mentality running KRG. Although this new prime minister, we have the President Barzani, who was prime minister for 17 years, and now he became president, promoted. And then we have new Barzani. He was the head of Security Council. He doesn't have any executive, especially in the government experience, and we look forward to see what he is going to accomplish. He promised so much, but one thing he promised and he mentioned was really interesting, and I'm looking forward to see if this is really a statement or an attractive statement which Washington loves to hear, or it is a really true vision, which he mentioned he wants to reset relations with Baghdad. And that was his article in Washington Post. Masroor Barzani said that. And that has two things. One is he admitted that the previous policies of KRG was wrong. Even KDP, another Barzani was prime minister, that was wrong. Tensions with Baghdad was wrong. Seeing Baghdad as a threat was wrong. And that's a new reset. But I'm wondering, what does he mean by reset? Is it a reset just submitting 250,000 barrel oil through Baghdad? That's not a reset. You need to change your vision. You need to portray Baghdad as an opportunity, a place that you govern with other people, with other groups. It's not a place that is going to be a threat anytime that may attack Kurdistan. That should not be seen that way. And how can we prevent that? How can we change Baghdad from threat to opportunity when we are in Baghdad, when we are active in Baghdad and we work with them in a true partnership? And we really drafted and negotiated this constitution together. If you don't like it, we should renegotiate it with other groups. It's not unilateral actions by either sides is not going to work. It's going to be You have a couple years of other Iraq prosperity for a very short period of time, but then you will have this rise and fall. Rise and fall, it's not stable because the country are not working together. So if he means by reset is just getting the 17% of KRG budget, that's not a reset. That's just the financial negotiations. The reset is just to work with Baghdad and see Baghdad as an opportunity, which we have a group of people, we are not a majority, but it's a growing number of people seeing Baghdad as an opportunity, this Baghdad, because we have 60 MPs in Baghdad from Kurdistan. We have the ministry, we have the president, and Baghdad is actually not working against Kurdistan, but it has some disagreements with Kurdistan over Kirkuk, over oil, other portions. That's normal, unless it's peaceful. And we can work with other groups, build alliance based on values and principles that can unite us with other groups in the south and also in the west. Of Anbar may have some interest in Kurdistan, we may have some interest in Najaf. These are the things we need to think about building partnership on local level and also on national level. So I'm not really sure if this is really an attractive statement, like I mentioned, or it is really a new vision of Barzani's toward Baghdad. I hope it is the second one.
Before I open the floor for questions, let me ask you one thing that I think I would be remiss if I don't ask you. We know in Washington, D.C. a lot about the two major parties in Kurdistan, and we had a good idea of some of the new parties like Goran. But what can you tell us about the future bloc that you just helped form, and what is it? Is it it came after the elections.
Right.
So this is one of the ways where Iraqi politics has two stages. Once you form coalitions and enter the elections,
right,
and that just to get seats and get negotiation power. But the true negotiation power and the true action happens with the groups and blocs that are formed under the what they call it, the ceiling of the parliament, and that's where the action works. So what is this group? Is it a new group? What are the future plans for it? What are you trying to accomplish by forming it?
If you allow me to
and some policy perspective
exactly,
of what it looks for, which is more important.
Our view on Kirkuk and other disputed areas and future of Baghdad-Erbil relations, I will talk about that, but we just allow me to a little bit go back to the history of Kurdish political parties. The oldest Kurdish political party in Iraqi Kurdistan is the Kurdistan Democratic Party. It is formed in 40s. And after like 15 years, there were two groups of people within KDP. The groups were called the educated and young, the people with suit and tie, and then the tribal. They united, they formed Kurdistan Democratic Party, and President Mullah Mustafa became the president of the Kurdistan Democratic Party, but it was formed to be a progressive and democratic party. But after 15 years, 15 or maybe more than that, 17 years, that didn't work. The first division of the Kurdistan Democratic Party happened in 1963. It's because the educated and young people like Talabani, they refused to surrender to tribalism. They refused having a tribal leader to run a party, and they were more fighting against having a family or a dynasty ruling Kurdistan or ruling a political party. So they separated, and then there were so many clashes and civil war until 1999. I mean, they were fighting, killed so many from each other, more than Saddam killed from Peshmerga. They killed from each other. And that was based on the vision that is against the tribalism. PUK was formed to refuse tribalism and embrace more progressive and democratic values, and leftist somehow. But unfortunately, KDP slowly became another version, PUK became another version of KDP. Talabani's family slowly controlled the party leadership, and then Goran came, the change movement came, and they were against having one family controlling the party and repeating KDP. And Goran became successful for around 10 years, because that was the idea. I mean, Goran didn't have any opportunities to hire people, to buy loyalists by giving them financial opportunities. They were like formed based on a value that they are against family party. They are for a progressive and democratic one. But after the death of Naushira Mustafa, the leader of Goran,
Yes.
unfortunately, the Goran also very quickly became another family party. And we formed the new generation. That's supposed to be something completely new. And we found, I'm not going to talk about that in details because it's going to take time, but we found, which I was the co-founder of that, and we worked on that, many young people, women. I think we had the largest women organizers than any other political party, which my wife, she's here, she played a great role in that by bringing women together for elections to join the party. But then quickly, within a couple months, I think that also took the same path very quickly. Like after the elections, we found ourselves that we are being controlled by, this is the same nature for KDP, PUK, Goran, and also New Generation. One family, one person, one company, controlling everything. And then we refused that idea, and then we formed the future, which is based on against dynasties or a family that controlled the political party. We refuse that. And we are looking for partnership with people in other provinces, in Kirkuk, in Mosul. We don't care about which ethnic group they represent, which religion or which God they pray to. So we are based on the democratic values that we are not going to have another failure, another political party being controlled by family. So that was how the future came up, and we formed a new coalition in Kurdistan parliament and also in Iraqi parliament. Our vision is that was our vision in New Generation, but then they departed from that, is that Baghdad is an opportunity. And Baghdad, this is how we should see it. And our future is in Baghdad, and it is not in Ankara, or it's not in Washington, or it's not in Tehran. These capitals can be helpful, can be our partners, but when we work together with Iraq, with other components, and we see that the peaceful coexistence in Iraq for Kurds is the only way forward, not the other ways. And also our vision for Kirkuk is completely different. We believe that Kirkuk need to be seen as normal, as other governorates. It has some constitutional unique situation, but the people need a life. The Kirkukis need to be heard. The Kirkukis need to be first to decide how it's Kirkuk. By the way, Kirkuk is a disputed city in Iraq between Kurdistan region and Baghdad. They paid so much since 50s. They've been Arabized, ethnic cleansing, and so much violence happened in Kirkuk. I think now it's time to change that narrative. It's ours or it's Baghdad's. It's Kurdistani, it's Iraqi. So Zakho is part of Kurdistan region, but it's part of Iraq. Suleimani is the same. Basra is the same thing. Why we should, based on the constitutional disagreement, we destroy the lives of the Kirkukis. We should have a different vision. We refuse ethnic solution for Kirkuk, for disputed areas. We think that's going to be decided by the people in those areas. The constitutional solution is going to be something that's going to happen when there's peace and when there's stability. During instability, I think anyway was trying to impose its unilateral policies. It will fail and it will explode.
Let me violate my promise and just ask one thing. Because I think that's very important. You are in Washington and you are saying this. How do you see Washington's role in trying to promote the vision that you are trying to have? Because we know Washington's policies are very important, whether they treat Iraq as one Iraq or two Iraqs,
right.
Whether they go through Baghdad or they go through Baghdad and every visit is split. You know, you go to Baghdad and you have to go to Erbil, and
right.
You talk with both. And so how do you see Washington playing a constructive role in making that vision that you have a reality?
Well,
Briefly.
Washington in the past and even during the referendum had the United Iraq, Democratic United Iraq. That's Iraq. It's built by all Iraqis and being run by all Iraqis and being represented. That is the true policy and the right path. But Washington also can help us to build both in Baghdad and also in Erbil stronger institutions. If we have a stronger legislative branch in both government regions, Baghdad and also in Erbil, and if we have a stronger court system or judicial system, and institutions can talk together, and it's going to be a more stable relations than based on personal relations. Washington has been trying to put, for example, in the past, Maliki and Barzani together, like just cuff them together in order to force them to talk to each other. That's really a very short-sighted, policy. It is not going to work for a very long time, and we have seen that in the middle of the conflict between Barzani and Maliki. In a couple of months, they were like meeting. They were saying like in the press conferences, we are brothers, and after 2 months, they were fighting each other. They were, accusing each other of corruption or conspiracy. That's not going to work. It's not helpful. The best way is to build, to help both regions, both governments, to build stronger institutions and to be the relation, because they play part in that, and also to invest in democratic process. Without democratic process, without having a strong democracy in Iraq, the stability and the coexistence between the components, it's impossible, because we have the majority and we have the minority. If there is no democratic arrangements, I think we're going to keep fighting each other for another century, and that's enough. Washington's role is two things. One is improving the institutions and helping Iraq to which they are doing through civil society organizations, and also investing more in Iraq's democratic process.
Can't agree more. Okay, we will go with some questions, and the operative word here is questions. So, we will start with the gentleman at the end, and then you, sir. Yes.
Hi, Mr. Shams. I have a question for you on the subject of Suli politics. I want to ask you what you see as the future of politics in Suli. Particularly, what do you see as the future of PUK and Goran politics, given that we're really approaching a couple years out from these big events of the deaths of Neshwan Mustafa, of Mam Jalal, of the September 2017 events. So where do you see, now that some time has elapsed since those big shake-up events, are there certain faces who are emerging in the PUK as people who you think are gonna really drive that party going forward? And then on the kind of KRG writ large front, this is sort of a yes or no question, but is Masoud Barzani still number one in Kurdistan?
Masoud Barzani.
Yeah.
Okay. The first question about Suleimania, just for those who are not familiar with that, Suleimania and Erbil, they're playing, two different roles. Suleimania is somehow representing a more diverse and open, and where the independent media based, and where there are more political parties, which is positive and negative. There are more political instability and protest. For some people, it's mean chaos, but for them others, it's a progress. So there are more political parties in Suleimania than in Erbil, or based in Suleimania than in Erbil. But I think it's the process that we will see. I think we will find more united front. The other political parties are finding themselves that became marginal, because KDP exploited the weakness of other political parties. I think for future of Suleimania is to building coalitions among political parties to form the next government, maybe the next KRG, and they will be the KRG's prime minister. So that's the only way moving forward. But there is a leadership crisis in Suleimania. That's true, that we have so many, we call them, some of them maybe warlords or oil lords in different parts of Suleimania. They are ruling, but that's for the current situation. But in the long run, we have to invest in democratic process, and then whoever wins the election, that will be allowed to form the government in the future. And I think focusing on political parties only, it's not really very helpful, because we can form every day a new political party, but that's not going to function or not going to work. I think KDP should be allowed to form the government because they are the majority, but also Sunni-based political parties, also they have to find a way to become the majority in the next election. That's how democracy works, and that's the only way to make Sunni more powerful politically in Erbil. Regarding Masoud Barzani, he's the president of Kurdistan Democratic Party, and he is as like any other president of any political party. His party is influential in Erbil and in Baghdad. Of course, he's going to be also influential because his party is influential, and there is no other. We do not acknowledge, or we do not recognize any other role for him other than the president of Kurdistan Democratic Party.
Excellent. Identify yourself, please, when you ask. Yes, sir.
I'm Peter Humphrey, Intel analyst and a former diplomat. Just want to say the suffering of these Yazidis is so extraordinary. You guys have got to give that your very highest priority. My question, the Hashid al-Shabi, the mere existence of those militias is the ultimate wet blanket to foreign direct investment. Don't you guys need like a 5-year plan to terminate the militias, absorb the militias, put them out of business? And can't the Iraqi army take over the Shrine militias and at least get rid of that one right away? And do you fear that if we do come up with a 5-year plan to get rid of the militias, that the Peshmerga would also be forced to abide by that plan, or can you see a carve-out exception for that?
I think that's a great question, and that's really relevant to the current incidents happened in Mosul between the PMU or elements of PMU with the Iraqi army, somehow confrontation or disagreement, and also in other areas. It is troubling to have militias either in KRG or in Baghdad out of government control. But it was really interesting, and also we are hoping that it will be implemented. The Prime Minister Abdul Mahdi recently mentioned that he made a decision to resolve Hashd al-Sha'bi's units within the Iraqi army. Those who want to join the army, just join the army. Those who want to, leave, that's something else. That's up to them. But that's going to take a long time, and it's not easy to do that because they have now political power in parliament. Those groups. But the good news is that the big political groups like Sairun and also Badr, which they also have these units. Or supported these units, they are ready and they accept the Prime Minister's plan to dissolve them and to unite them with the Iraqi army. And we are looking forward to see the result of that decision. And I'm not really pessimistic, but I'm not also very optimistic about the plan. But it is now taking, step by step. As for Peshmerga, I think it is harder, because they have been there and this is how they have been formed. And they've been there for around 3 decades, even more than that, if you count from 1991. So that is, but that will, of course, affect the Peshmerga also to be united and to be organized under the Ministry of Peshmerga, because we have so many Peshmerga units. They do not report to government. They report to political parties, which is troubling, which is one of the concerns for democratic progress in Iraq, in Kurdistan region, and one of the reasons that in the 2015, when Kurdistan Parliament tried to amend Kurdistan presidency law by limiting Masoud Barzani's presidency, they had the Peshmerga, and they closed down parliament, just like that, simply. So it is troubling. We do not have that powerful militia that they can do that in Iraq, but they are also it's a concern for everybody, and we hope that the decision is implemented, and we are following the steps of the implementation of that decision. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Dilman Abdul Qadir, from Director of External Relations at Allegiance Strategies. Kak Sarkawt, I have two quick questions for you. With the issue of Turkey involved in Iraq, Turkey is looking to put long-term military bases, and sometimes they've stated that they want to implement permanent military bases near Kandil to fight off the PKK. Whose responsibility is this ultimately? Is this Baghdad's or KRG's? Baghdad says it wants to be a sovereign country controlling the borders of Iraq. However, KDP has much influence in that region, and they are in coordination with the AKP party and Erdogan's government. And also, my second question to you is, who have you met in your visit here in Washington? Have you spoke to the Iraqi embassy? Have you had meetings with them? And also, have you had meetings with the KRG office and the representative there? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On Turkish military bases, they've been there since in the 90s. They came to, I think, 1996. They came to Kurdistan. They based military bases under the pretext of fighting against PKK, which is a military group that a militia group that's been fighting Turkey since 80s. For different political reasons. I think that has to be the solution for Turkish concerns in Iraq, especially about the PKK, is inside Turkey. I mean, Iraq cannot really do so much, even if you give the opportunity or the chance to Iraqi government to control the border. It is not going to be able to fully control it unless it is the political issues inside Turkey is concerned, which is not our really responsibility or the role to play. And I think it's important for Turkey also to respect the Iraqi sovereignty, because a more destabilized Iraq is not in favor of Turkey. It will be used by other radical groups. Even if they are seeing PKK as a threat, it will be also exploited by them also as well if Iraq more destabilized. It's in favor of Turkey to strengthen Iraqi cooperations based on mutual respect, and whether through KRG or it's through Baghdad. But we fully refuse political parties building relations with other countries without the consent of the Iraqi government, and that's seen as a conspiracy, and that's going to be seen as unconstitutional, and there's only one can make this decision. It's the Iraqi government. If it's not Iraqi government, it's Iraq's fault, and they have to do that. They have to take actions on that. With regard to the meetings, I will hopefully, if it's August in Washington, everybody is going to vacation. So, but hopefully you'll meet some officials of the State Department, also Iraqi embassy. I think they have people here, so hopefully we'll meet. And I talked to them before I come here, but not so much KRG. I'm not sure how and why, but they may tell you why. But I've been in touch with the Iraqi embassy because I'm an Iraqi MP. But KRG, I'm fine to visit them, to talk to them, but I'm not sure if they are allowed to invite me.
Well, that's a revelation. The gentleman here and the lady behind him in that order.
Hi, Hunter Thompson with Senator Bill Cassidy. We were excited to see recently a second recent big purchase of rice that benefited Louisiana a lot. I was wondering if you see a future in more purchases and imports, trade deals, and seeing that as a way to build a relationship with this administration, which is, very keen on making, trade deals, and seeing that as, a positive relationship for us. And as well, I think it was the Chinese ambassador in Baghdad that had mentioned some investment or talks of investment, maybe not the 90 billion number that you were talking about, but kind of where are or what is the status on those discussions as well?
I think for the investment opportunity, there's so much that Washington can play a role, and there will be opportunities for them. I think that GE recently signed an agreement with Ministry of Electricity. It is over $14 billion, I think, contract to help Iraqi, to build really Iraqi electricity infrastructure, which is really a positive thing, with Siemens, in partnership with Siemens and Iraqi Ministry of Electricity. And there will be more opportunities to do that. But it is also thinking about not only military side, purchasing the equipment, which is incredible equipments that U.S. has, and Iraq is benefiting from that, some of them for free, some others like for purchase, which they already purchased, I think, more F-16 from Washington. But that is not going to be only, our relation should not be only transactional, should be long-term relations between us. Just don't forget, we have the digital companies that they are benefiting from the Iraqi market. I think over $200 million were like used on Facebook by Iraqi market in the last couple of years. So it is just, even Facebook is not there, their base is not in Iraq, but they are being, using it. This is money is pouring from Iraq to Washington on Google, Twitter, every other digital like social media platforms. But there will be also opportunities for other companies to do it in Iraq. With regard to the Chinese, that's still in negotiation, and that's because I think we were not very successful, and maybe this is an opportunity for Iraqi embassy to provide more, do more conferences, lobbying better for the Iraqi markets. What are the areas that U.S. Companies can, invest? So I think there will be more opportunity, even if the Chinese are signing a contract for railroad or something like that. But there will be better chances for United States and to play a role. But the problem is the only company that is interested in Iraq now are oil companies, and which is great. But we need others that they can create more jobs for Iraqi much needed population.
Hello, my name is Laura Kelly. I'm here on behalf of the Middle East Center for Reporting and Analysis based in Jerusalem. In your opening remarks, you talked about it is important for Iraq to remain neutral in the tensions between the U.S. and Iran. But given all the things you mentioned that Iraq has at stake with Iran, the long border, shared historical, cultural ties, economic infrastructure, and Iraq's important relationship with the U.S., is there anything Iraq can do to help ease tensions between the U.S. and Iran?
Well, I think recently the Prime Minister of Iraq he played a role in easing tensions between UK and Tehran. And I think if Washington asks them, and I think there were some informal talks about that also, that the Iraqi president also delivered some of the messages, Iraqi other politicians to Iran. This is the role that Iraq want to play. It's also in our interest and also in both countries' interest to play a positive role, to peacefully resolve their differences if we can play a role. But at least if we cannot, just tolerate our neutrality with both of them. We just cannot take sides, because this is not in our interest, and this is something we cannot do it, because we need both countries to support us.
Yes, the gentleman here in front.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you, Mr. Sarkawt. Welcome to DC, and please feel free to contact Embassy of Iraq. We will do all the possible means to assist you and make this visit a success, of course, with Dr. Kadhim and with the Atlantic Council. I'm very pleased to maybe it's the first time to hear a different rhetoric from Iraqi Kurdistan, different from what we have been hearing before.
Different vision
and different also different attitude and different views. My question is that how do you think you can promote for this vision in Iraqi Kurdistan? How can you promote for the vision that the future of Iraqi Kurdistan is within Iraq and with Baghdad and within federal united democratic Iraq? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I think I was in touch with DC, former DCM, Dr. Muhammad, about visiting the embassy, but I think he left. With the new vision, I think that's not going to be one side. I think we need, which I mentioned in the beginning, that also in the remarks, that the current Prime Minister is really showing, goodwill to his willingness to resolve differences with KRG peacefully without making so much noise and exploit the situation. But also we need to see the Iraqi politicians to see Kurdistan as part of their country. I do not really want to see Iraqi MPs, I'm an Iraqi MP, but also from Mid and South, to see Kurdistan as a threat to them and the rise of Kurdistan as something really bad for Iraq. It's one country, one GDP, and we can benefit from each other. So I really hate to see that our people, they have a negative reaction about Iraq when they see so many MPs talking about KRG share so much. That seem to be, we are a different country. I fully support the vision of the current Prime Minister, and also he mentioned in a couple places, if our differences or problems with Kurdistan is a couple $2 billion, that's really a huge, huge progress. In the past, there was like separation. If it's financial, we can resolve it. I think, but too much sensitivity from Baghdad about KRG share will make the public opinion in Kurdistan that Baghdad is still do not want Kurdistan to be part of its country, or doesn't want Kurdistan to prosper. And that's why I work with civil society and also with officials in Baghdad to really be somehow sensitive when they talk about KRG, and they can deliver to us. I can criticize KRG better than them, and it is not sensitive for me to do that. And people are, it's part of my job to do that. So I'm also sensitive to mention some of the issues in the South. And if there are some corruptions, I have my friends in the South that they can, talk to their people in a better way. And we have, like I mentioned, we have divided groups, political groups. We are not united based on ethnic and sectarian groups. That's a good opportunity. And it's just like, also in Washington, you cannot use some phrases or words or N-word if you are not really African American. So it's also kind of a sensitive, and I see that the progress in more MPs in Baghdad are sensitive to mention too much about Kurdistan and focusing too much on ethnicity. They are more sometimes criticizing a certain political party, which is a good progress. But we don't need only the political parties to work together. Also, the civil societies that can play a good role in the future, which this is going to be part of our mission in our committee.
Ambassador Mack and the gentleman in front of him in that order. So, Ambassador Mack.
Yes, I'm David Mack from the Middle East Institute. Let me say, first of all, that I applaud that you are coming here as a representative of the Iraqi government, and you are downplaying your ethnicity as a political factor, as proud as you might be of being Kurdish. And let me just say that over the decades, I think Washington audiences need to realize that, first of all, Mam Jalal as Iraq's president, and now Barham Saleh as Iraq's president, are proving in many respects to be better Iraqi patriots than any number of Arab politicians whose names I won't mention. So you have something to be proud of and to build upon.
Thank you, Ambassador. The gentleman.
Timothy Didi with the Tahrir Institute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Going back to the Hesh al-Shabi, recently the U.S. Treasury Department has taken action against different militia groups and its leaders. I was hoping you could discuss what you think the U.S.'s response and engagement should be with these individuals and groups, if they should engage with them at all.
Okay, thank you so much. It's for Ambassador's remark, that's true, but that's the reconciliation between Iraqi components. It will take time, and I see this parliament as an opportunity for that. And I was really surprised to see that that the Sairun block by Sayyid Qata al-Sadr was ordered not to really, it's a red line to punish KRG's employees, no matter what. And also for al-Badr, they mentioned the same thing, that they were more keen than some of the Kurdish MPs to ease tensions with Kurdistan, because it's worth it to unite the country. Financial issues can be resolved. It's not a big issue. So it is, if we see more willingness from Baghdad toward Kurdistan, embracing Kurdistan also from Kurdistan to Baghdad, that's going to work, and that's how we see it. If you ask the business people in Kurdistan, they really say that we need Baghdad, we need Iraq. It's a good opportunity. If you ask the people who speak Arabic also, they communicate with their friends in South and the Mid, and that's really an opportunity. But also we need more from Baghdad to do toward Kurdistan, because like Prime Minister Abdul Mahdi in a private conversation mentioned to our MPs, my friends, that Kurdistan has been separated from Iraq since 1991. If you want to reunite it, it takes time. And also you have to compromise in terms of financial or also constitutional, and sometimes also you need to apologize for the mistakes of the other governments. That's going to heal the wounds of the past. As for the leaders of the PMU, this is one of the issues that I mentioned in my remarks, that we are sometimes surprised by Washington's decisions and actions against certain people, or also Iraqi elements, which they see them as a threat. The problem is more complicated when we are not being consulted, and we do see that this is being done against maybe Iran or Russia, which they do not have good diplomatic relations, and we consider ourselves as partners. So in this kind of issues, Iraqi government need to be respected and need to be consulted if you want Iraq also to see you as a partner, and also to embrace the relationship between Washington and Baghdad.
Well, as much as I would like to take more questions, time is always the sword that doesn't stop. So before I get to go over the time, I would like to take a moment to thank my good friend Sarkawt. Of course, we could spend twice more time as we could, and Iraq has so many aspects to talk about. But I think you very eloquently in your introductory remarks and your discussion with me and the audience outlined a lot of the things that are very salient to Iraq and in Iraq. And we hope that this conversation continues. You are more than welcome to the Atlantic Council anytime you stop by Washington. It's also always an invitation to all of our friends at the Iraqi government and parliament. But also it is a great thanks to the audience for the questions, for the engagement, and for being with us. Thank you very much, and always an honor.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.
Join me to come back. Thanks so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.